Many people believe that have knowledge of the situation that Trump started the war in Iran to distract from the Epstein files. But the Oversight Committee is not giving up on the Epstein files. They are continuing to do depositions. They had a briefing of Pam Bondi. Of course, she provided no information. She doesn't intend to comply with the law. So let's get up to date on what the Oversight Committee is doing in the Jeffrey Epstein files. And this is such an important point. We're talking about files that were originally not released. We're talking about allegations against Trump that DOJ tried to keep from the American people. And so Epstein's accountant and now lawyer has testified. And this is very interesting coming out of those closed meetings.
Jane Doe number 4 alleged to the FBI that Epstein abused her when she was 13 and that Trump abused her when she was 15. Khan, Epstein's accountant, testified that the Epstein estate settled with Jane Doe number 4 for both Epstein and Trump. His lawyer tried to walk that back. Indike refused to confirm or deny that. Now, how do we get to the bottom of that? Congress passes a law invalidating all NDAs from the Trump or the Trump organization, from Epstein, any of his entities, from the estate, or based on any activities at the Epstein properties. Let's have the truth. We want the truth, no NDAs.
So I found that a really compelling and interesting thing to say about the NDAs. I think that's a great idea. But for the accountant to testify that the Epstein estate paid Jane Doe number 4 for acts committed by Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, and for it to be such back page news with all of these MAGA Christians that they're going to protect kids and they're pro-life and they love they love everything about family values. This is somewhat stunning to me.
So, I mean, here's how successful the Trump regime is at controlling the news cycle. Mm-hmm. My nose and eyes are in the news all the time because I have to be well read to be able to do this. And I'd seen maybe like a little post about some sort of payoff, but Pumps, until you presented it to me just now in real time, the way you did, this is a bombshell beyond all bombshells. And this is a huge component, obviously, for the parties that convinced Trump to go into war with Iran. They knew all this stuff. They know this. FBI knows this. Pam Bondi knows this. Little Moses, Mike Grinder Johnson knows all this shit. And so the race to start the war immediately was able to push this down. But this is a bombshell beyond all bombshells that a president of the United States paid off, or parties that representing claims that he assaulted a minor received money. And here's the thing about the Epstein files. As you dive into them, this is just all that's been released or that the Oversight Committee has access to. Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and the Trump regime and foreign governments, we now know, have all of them.
Yep. And
so we know that they would have held the worst of the worst for hoping that it never gets leaked out. So what's so sad about this, number one, is how little the American government cares about sexual abuse when rich people do it. Yep. And number two, how willing so many Americans that lecture Americans in the federal government, lecture working class people, and lecture the world on American patriotism and American exceptionalism. And then these Christian nationalists, to your point, within the Trump regime that lecture people about moral values are covering up for child rapists. The president of the United States has credible claims of sexual assault to a child, and he has 100% support with MAGA voters. That is a cancer upon a cancer upon a cancer in American culture. And if Democrats were savvy and smart, they would be messaging and brand damaging the Republican Party. This is brand damaging facts about the lies and the depravity and the death cult nature of the Republican Party.
I completely agree. And what's even more alarming is that this thing is going on. And then Dan Goldman gets on the floor of the House and he reads out loud an unredacted copy of what the allegations Jane Doe number 4 made. I'm not seeing that on mainstream news, but here, and we've talked about the allegations, but I think that it's important to know that Dan Goldman went on the House floor and read the unredacted copy. And we just have a clip of that for you.
Allegations that the FBI unquestionably found to be credible. And now we know why. She credibly accuses Donald Trump of sexually assaulting her when she was between 13 and 15. Let me teach you how little girls are supposed to be. Trump unzipped his pants and put her head down, quote, down to his penis, bit the S out of it. Trump struck the victim and said words to the effect of, "Get this little B the hell out of here." They included this victim's testimony. They would not have done so if they did not find the evidence credible, which means that Attorney General Bondi lied when she stated under oath that there is no evidence that Donald Trump committed a crime, that Jeffrey Epstein emailed Ghislaine Maxwell and said, quote, "I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Redacted victim spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned."
It's pretty stunning that this is not leading every news station, mainstream media, front page of every paper in the United States of America. I mean, it really shows what a failure we have in these corporate entities that need to sell ads and spread propaganda versus informing the American people.
You're exactly right. And the through line is that when profits are what people have in common, then this is what you get. You get a president who is willing to break the law to prioritize profits over human beings, who is willing to prioritize profits over the rule of law. He even has a Supreme Court that prioritizes profits over the rule of law, that will give up their own power in a shadow docket vote after another shadow docket vote. And then everybody's like, oh my God, SCOTUS stood up to Trump and said no on the tariffs. That was a gift to corporations because the tariffs were harming their bottom line. And so we can look to Bernie Sanders' message, starting from back when he ran in the primary against Hillary, that this sound, somebody has been sounding the alarm to what happens in a culture when you prioritize profits. You dehumanize people. And the through line is all of these people in the Epstein class are people that exploit business-wise. These are exploiters of labor and exploiters of human beings. So then they exploit little girls, and there's a cascade of psychological reasons why that happens. I mean, I explained to you guys, a psychologist that I read an article about where they talk about a little girl being the inversion of a successful woman with agency and autonomy that's able to run a company. So all of these, or they're just sick fucking perverts, you know, to just put it simply. But it's just 100% believable that Donald Trump sexually abused girls because, number one, Howard Stern interview, he said his cutoff age was 12. Number two, the grab him by the pussy. Number three, he owned Miss Teen USA, bragged about, you know, I own the agents, I own the contest. So I'm able to go backstage and there's, you know, girls standing there butt naked and I have to go back there because I'm the owner for inspections. And the larger narrative here that the Democrats need to pounce on, aside from standing up for victims and standing out against rape, is this narrative that all of these pro-life Republicans, we value family, we value traditional families, we value blah, 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 traditional values. These girls were families. They were somebody's family, and they were preyed upon by wealthy people because they were poor. And Republicans basically only value the families that they're currently in. Pete Hegseth has had multiple families. Right. Donald Trump has had multiple families. Little Moses Mike Grinder Johnson has some kid that he adopted that was a teenager who now he has no relationship with at all. And he doesn't value that previous member of his family. The Republican, the whole thing that it's built on is built on lies, hypocrisy, Iron Age thinking, and we must reject it entirely. And these poor girls that have to live in this country that's governed by an alleged, credibly accused child rapist who colludes with a government, Israel, whose IDF soldiers rape Palestinians with impunity. And there's story after story after story after story of doing this. We have this cabal of elites still continuing across the United States, Israel, and I'm sure other places where they think the world is set up exclusively for them to exploit whatever they want to. And they can just feed propaganda to the dipshit masses. And I think it's running out of steam. And that's why we have to stay focused and engaged.
Well, we are going to stay focused and engaged because Pam Bondi, who has said she probably won't appear at the deposition she's been summoned to. That is coming up in short order. And then we have banks, they're subpoenaing records